If you're watching this video, you likely came from my TikTok, seeing my video about how to break free from lust. And now you're probably wondering, what is it exactly I do and how can I help you break free from the burnout of constant disappointment, false promises, clicking off the apps, the child locks, disappointing yourself time over again, and learn who is my help really for? And can it actually help you stop beating yourself up, but more importantly, beating your meat so that you can start growing into the man that you were called to be? Well, let's answer those right now. Welcome to the Daily Deposit System. This is an operational framework for reclaiming your authority so that you can master your impulses and build biological confidence. And this is me here on when I used to beat my meat 4, 5, even 6 times in a day. And you probably heard from the video, yes, even in a church basement, and I'm not proud of it. And I'm going to show you step by step the exact framework that I recorded over years of struggling to help you go from impulsive, uncontrollable, to disciplined, consistent, and more importantly, in the best shape of your life. And so I'm Jonathan Louis. I'm founder of the Daily Deposit System. We work with ambitious men aged from 25 all the way up to 40 to help them stop guessing, stop locking their phones in other rooms, and stop piecing together random willpower hacks and self-help tips. And instead, we install a system that helps them reclaim their identity, master their impulses, and leave their families and their businesses with high-level discipline. Now, this isn't just based on theory. This is my real life. This is based on the same exact framework that I use to go from chained in secret habits in a church basement to living a life of physical and spiritual abundance. And so when you see me here, I am a product of my own product. I am the product of a system of everyday deposits into my health and wellness that allowed me to get to a place to where you see me now, happily married of almost 3 years and in the best shape I have ever been as a former athlete. In this 16-week transformation, there are 3 phases and 3 main pillars that are going to build this out. And so in this daily deposit system, we focus on this transformation on the psychological basis. And so it's not just random things that get strung along, but as I looked back on this journey of finding myself constantly frustrated, whether it would be coming home from school and not getting the shorty that I wanted. And I remembered one of them was in my sophomore year. Everybody had a crush on her. I'm laughing because I'm like, dang, I was really a cornball. And I remember going home, going into the shower and realizing, well, I might as well just beat off anyways. And as I got older, that was always a solution to all the pent up stress that I had. And so I had a dopamine issue. And most time when it comes to lust, we think that it's a self-control thing. And we just need to hammer ourselves home more and be more disciplined. And so that we can actually lock in and get delivered from this place that we hate so much. But reality is the dopamine audit is pillar 1. Then breaking down what the earned dopamine system is and how we actually implement that. And then the third is the covenant of stewardship, the actual growth that happens. And so over time, we stop guessing and we stop piecing together the random tactics. And we install a system once and for all. Now, this silent debt that I mentioned is why you're really running on red. You have all the external success and all the assets between your career pathway, your family, the calling that you have on your life. You might even be in ministry. And you found yourself always advancing in little ways where you don't have to study as much, work as hard, or put as much thought as you notice into your other peers. And that's allowed you to just glide away. Meanwhile, there's internal bankruptcy happening. Internal, you have this liability and this emotional overload where you're always feeling burnt out. You're always feeling like you're doing too much and your support system is failing you. You have this cognitive dissonance because in your mind, you know that you have more potential, but that's all it stays as, just mere potential. And so most men are processing, they possess the internal markers of the success in the career and the family and the calling that God has on their life, but they don't have the internal structure mentally to support all of that weight emotionally of what it requires. And so over time, little by little, you're paying interest on a debt that you can't even see happen. And you find yourself in these breaking moments where you come home and there's nothing else for you to do but want to release. And the only way you know how to is by touching yourself, is by eating junk. And that's why willpower hacks will always fail you. Phone usage won't ever work. The app blockers, just white knuckling it, just taking it head on, even deleting social media, because these are just symptoms. These are just the fruit, but not necessarily the root of it. And until we get to the root cause of where this is a leak into your life, you're never going to change what you're producing fully. And so the roots are how we're processing our emotions. How can we regulate dopamine on a more simple, tactical, day to day level? And so, where our triggers aren't forcing us to turn to vices, but into blessings and things that are going to help us prosper and grow, and solidifying our identity in a root and not just on things that change. And so, while we're here on a surface level, we have this opportunity to no longer just look at the symptoms of what's creating in our life, but get to what's creating those symptoms. And so locking your phone in another room attacks the access, but not the appetite, that itch. You know that itch when you find yourself bored, and even though you have other things to do, you could just feel the idea of wanting to do something that you know you shouldn't be. You know that you have no reason and no business opening up that browser. You know that you have no business going on page 14. I remember just finding any possible way of looking for the most perfect video, finding the video that would give me the oh my gosh moment that makes me think that it feels so much better, that I don't have to feel as sorry and depressed that I'm not where I want to be and I'm not who I'm with or making the money that I want to. Reality is, I was trying to solve a hardware problem with a software patch. But this is how we're going to solve the root. Now, pillar one in the dopamine audit, the objective is to stop the bleeding, leading life and not reacting to it. And so in this dopamine, you'll see in this visual, this is what the junk does. It numbs the stress of leadership, and all it is scrolling, lust, and just cheap thrills. And that causes leak over time. But if we allow emotional processing and awareness, we start to get to the fix. And most men are bankrupt because they're addicted to junk dopamine. But here in the daily deposit system, we installed the foundation to process emotions instead of drowning them out. Understand this. When we're able to process instead of drowning, we stop the withdrawal so that you're not just reacting to life. And so when things come your way, you're not just emotionally just reacting to it for any way that feels good to you, but you actually know the root and how to fix it. Now, pillar two is the earned dopamine system. Now, once these leaks are plugged, we install those daily deposit mechanics. We replace those old vices with a high performing routine, physical training, nutrition, spiritual stillness. And this isn't about trying harder or doing more. This is about reforming the mind through consistent daily wins that build real biological confidence. And so this isn't about just trying harder. It's about how we can reform our minds through specific daily actions, replace those old vices with high performance fuel. And in this way, when you notice in the dating process, when you have a young lady and you have no actual way to discern whether she's right for you or not, and you have no discipline to be able to constrain or restrict yourself, and you decide to take the next step and touching and spending time and talking. And now you've gotten yourself so deep in a situation that you can't even back out of because you've committed so deep into it. If you want to know how exactly I knew my wife was my wife, I want you to pay very close attention to pillar three, because this is going to be the difference maker of men who succeed and men who just stay exactly where they're at, beating themselves up and beating their meat. The pillar three is the covenant of stewardship. And this is where we grow you. And so we can't talk about being husbands and being leaders of where we want to be unless we first audit our dopamine, start implementing those daily deposit mechanics, and now we can grow. And finally, we scale that discipline into the roles as the husband you want to become, the father, the businessman. We move you from the pride of self consumption to the power of stewardship. And so now you're no longer just living for your own pleasure and always wanting to feel good, but now you can take an authority and your stance as a man to steward well. And so you stop being the man who tries to be disciplined all the time. You start being a man whose makes discipline the only option. And so at the root, at the foundation is this self-discipline. And this is exactly my journey. Before I met my wife, I spent years learning how to discipline myself. No was the most powerful answer that I had to become accustomed to. And that wasn't only in my abstinence journey, but that reflected in how I lived my life on a daily basis. And so whether it became impulsive spending or random dates, or even how I spent my time in business in my professional life, it became a lot of no's. This is where the foundation begins. And once we can expand on that, that looks like family, friends, and showing up authentically. And so that when I did meet my wife, I knew who she was because I knew who I was. I was a husband, and a husband can always recognize a wife. And the level of who you are is not necessarily who you attract, because you can't control who you attract, but you can control who you entertain. And so when it becomes a level of woman that you would like, you have to raise your standards as a man and perform on that level and have peak performance in your business and the legacy that you are stewarding. And so I knew my wife was my wife because of her character, her personality, and I had eyes to discern from my time of discipline someone else who had done that growth. You cannot recognize or someone's growth to how it can be accepted to you unless you've done that work yourself. You can admire it, and that's what happens most times, is that you're seeing women who are out your league. Because I remember when I was in that church basement, touching myself, beating myself 4 or 5, even 6 times a day, and I saw those women who are on their boss lady, I knew I couldn't match up. I wouldn't dare approach. Just not a level of confidence that I can have. I have no evidence of being that man. My identity, even if I pretended to be, would be completely false and it would be a popped balloon. And so this is how we become the only option of discipline. And so the identity state changer we're going from, like I mentioned, is from faking it, that old identity of piecing together the random hacks, reacting to life stress, comfortable in the same shame cycle, and becoming the new identity, something that God is calling us to be. Operating a complete system, mastering our impulses and what our flesh is asking of us, and we're leading with high levels of discipline. And we no longer have to settle with just trying. Trying is not doing. And so if you want to start being the man that can say no and doesn't rely on closing out on apps and maybe just going 2 weeks of just doing good just to find yourself back at square one, this is where most men aren't short. It's not your talent or effort. You're stuck because you're trying to scale your life without a real system. You got the career, a family, you even got maybe a ministry, but you have no structure to manage all of that weight on your back. And so this is for, well, let's start with who this is not for. Beginners who are just looking for a quick 30-day shred. If you're looking for a 2-week detox, this is not for you. This is not for men who are looking for a magic pill without any type of ownership or accountability. This is not men who are looking to stay comfortable in the same shame cycle and repeating the same things on a daily basis without having any type of confrontation from someone calling them out and calling them up higher to a better standard. This is for men with a life worth fighting for. If you have a business in mind, If you know that you're called to marriage and you want to be married one day, you have that desire. If you have a calling on your life and you recognize this is worth fighting for, this is for you. This is for all the men who are tired of faking it, being in small groups and church sessions and chilling with your bros or going on dates and hiding it from your girlfriend. This shameful act of always putting it in dark places. This is for men who know what got them here isn't enough for the next level of manhood that they want to become. You have that inkling and you know that it requires more from you, but you aren't doing it. And so here's how you start making this change. If you're ready to stop the silent debt that keeps accumulating over your life, and you want to start building a legacy of discipline, starting this spring, I'm going to have a link for you where you can fill out some information. I have somebody from my team reach out to you, and we'll look over where you're currently leaking that energy. And we'll show you what's exactly missing in your daily routine. And if it's a fit, we'll walk you exactly how the daily deposit system will change your life. And I am not going to waste your time because this is what I do. I transform men's life using the same exact story and framework that changed mine. If you're not ready to make a commitment with your time, your energy, or your resources, investing into yourself so that you can become the type of man that you know you need to become and be held accountable with the support and framework and structure to make it inevitable, then there is no reason to poke around for any more information. And you could be on the lookout for more videos, more content, whatever way it can help you. But this is only for men who are ready to take the next step. And if that's not you yet, that is okay. There's going to be more content and more game out there. But if you know, and if you heard that video, and you know you've been in that same place, and you want that help, we got you.